Tonight, we start with more fallout involving another member of Charlotte City Council. We have learned Councilwoman Tiawana Brown is now facing federal charges.
The Justice Department alleging that Brown, along with her daughters, defrauded COVID relief programs to get more than $124,000 in pandemic aid. Now, this indictment says that the money was supposed to be used for business expenses. However, not long after collecting the loan, Brown reportedly used $15,000 from her nonprofit's bank account, which contained the PPP loan funds, on her birthday party.
That just came up. No one had to tell me to pay it back. When I found out that there may have been some stipulations and how the application was processed, I paid it back.
Now, Brown is calling the charges politically motivated. She says that the loan she received and has since repaid was meant to help support a new clothing business she started in 2020, not defrauding the government.
The WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito discovered Brown and her daughter's loan applications were oddly similar here, Nate.
That's right. I analyzed federal data and court records and found so many similarities, from the timing of when they applied for the loans to how much they received, how they reported spending the money to the address they listed on their applications.
September 2020.
It's offensive. I mean, this coronavirus PPP money could have gone to businesses that were actually in need.
The then federal attorney in charge of prosecuting coronavirus fraud locally told us the government was just getting started building criminal cases.
It's despicable when people take this money that was supposed to help people.
Just 6 months or so later, records showed Tiawana Brown and her daughters applied for COVID relief loans. PPP data shows each one of them used the same Charlotte address in their applications. As sole proprietors, they each received the maximum amount of money in the first round, and Brown's daughters secured the exact same amounts again after applying for secondary loans. All of them said they used the money for payroll. Fast forward to today. A criminal indictment shows each member of the family listed the same gross income for their reported businesses.
In all of the criminal cases we've had, I don't believe it's a case where someone didn't know.
During an appearance on WFAE's Charlotte Talks Thursday, newly sworn-in U.S. Attorney Russ Ferguson said he inherited this case, but added the office has secured 35 convictions tied to COVID relief fraud in recent years. And those cases generally have something in common, too.
It is classic fraud. It's creating fake documents, lying on applications, signing under penalty of perjury that things are true, making companies that don't exist to get the loan. It's classic fraud.
So let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. We're supposed to celebrate the first formerly incarcerated Black woman elected to the Charlotte City Council, and now this same woman is being indicted again for federal fraud. Now, I know y'all want me to get up off this here YouTube with such foolishness, but I promise you, you cannot make this stuff up. While the left is busy throwing a whole lot of money and a whole lot of microphones at all of these DEI darlings, the communities that they represent are drowning in dysfunction and wearing all of us out with a ratchetang fatigue. Coming up next on Unshakable with April Chapman. Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman, and today we have to deal with some abject foolishness going on down there in Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know what is going down in Charlotte, but we've got Fani Willis with her foolery here in Atlanta. We got Letitia, Big Tish is what they call her, James, chasing political ghosts and then trying to run from her own up in New York. You have Jasmine Crockett, lace front Jasmine Crockett, that is, trying to take over the Democrat Party, and Maxine Waters is still presiding over Compton at the ripe old age of somewhere in her early millions. Y'all, none of these women are empowering. All we have is a bunch of leftist progressive exploitation, and it's time that we call it out. We're going to be diving into a story that raises some serious questions about leadership, accountability, and the values that we uphold in our communities. I have questions, okay? Just a lot of questions. The Charlotte City Council member, Tiawana Brown, she made history as wait for it, the first formally incarcerated Black woman elected to the council. She's now been indicted on federal wire fraud charges. I mean, you mean to tell me that nobody saw this coming? Like we couldn't figure out that this could possibly happen? Y'all need to be ashamed of yourselves. So let's go ahead and take a look at the indictment details before Tiawana tries to flee for Tijuana, Mexico. Wait, no, she can't do that because she ain't got no passport. So that's not going to happen. So anyway, y'all, let's take a look at this.
Eyewitness News live at 5. A Charlotte Councilwoman held her head high while staring down fraud allegations.
What's the message to the community?
I love you.
Thanks for watching tonight. I'm Scott Wickersham.
And I'm Gina Esposito. Councilmember Tiawana Brown and her 2 daughters face a judge today. They're accused of filling out more than a dozen fraudulent COVID relief loan applications.
Something all 3 say they did not do. Our live team coverage of these cases continuing tonight. First, Channel 9's Hunter Sines, who was in court with her today. Hunter?
Well, Scott, as she left the courthouse today, Councilwoman Tiawana Brown told me she was pleased with how today went. Inside, she was very respectful with the federal judge as she pleaded not guilty to multiple fraud charges. And we also learned today the conditions and rules that she and her daughters will all have to follow until this is all resolved.
Charlotte City Councilwoman Tiawana Brown stood tall as she walked out of federal court.
Any thoughts on how that went today?
Not saying much after facing a judge and pleading not guilty to wire fraud and wire fraud conspiracy. The feds say she, in part, misused thousands of dollars in COVID relief funds, spending $15,000 on this extravagant and flashy 50th birthday party for herself. Her 2 daughters, also charged in the case, also pleaded not guilty.
What are your feelings facing a judge along with your daughters?
Excuse me, can I get through here, please?
Cameras are not allowed in federal court, but we were inside the courtroom as federal magistrate judge Susan Rodriguez gave Brown and her daughters each a $25,000 unsecured bond. They will not be held in jail. They also had to surrender their passports, but Tiawana Brown can still travel throughout the U.S. for her American Airlines job, along with her nonprofit work.
Any thoughts on your passport being revoked? I know it was a concern due to your job.
The judge allowed me to do what I love to do, and that's work. Travel the world and help people.
Brown and her daughters all asked the judge for their cases to go to a jury trial.
Would you at all be open to taking a plea deal if it was offered?
She didn't answer, but her attorney, Rob Heroy, did.
No, it's not up for consideration.
Yeah, her defense attorney right there, Rob Heroy, also told me that it will be several more months before a trial gets underway. He also believes this will likely be one trial with all 3 defendants in that single trial. Now, I also asked Councilwoman Tiawana Brown if she feels support from her constituents. She turned to me and said, quote, "Absolutely. What do you think? I won every precinct."
Okay, so I've got more clips to go through, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys a preliminary outlook of exactly what we were dealing with as it relates to this story. So the thing is, federal prosecutors, the allegation is that between April of 2020 and September of 2021, Tiawana Brown and her 2 daughters conspired to fraudulently obtain over $124,000 in COVID-19 relief funds through the Small Business Administrations. And I remember this. It was called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL program. And then you also had the Paycheck Protection Program. That was the PPP. And so the indictment claims that at least 15 applications were submitted with false information, including fraudulent tax forms. Now, the reason why this is just ridiculous and it is so ghetto. And the reason why I'm calling it ghetto is because a lot of people got caught up in the EIDL and the PPP fraud. So many people who either didn't have legitimate businesses or who did have legitimate businesses, but instead of just taking what they needed based on their situation and circumstances, they used it as an opportunity to grift and make it rain off the government. I actually had a small business during this time, and we actually did not apply for the EIDL funds, but we did apply for the Paycheck Protection. And I don't know, maybe it was just me, but the terms and conditions for PPP were very clear, okay? You had to have been in business. You had to have like a bona fide business, and the money could only be used on rent and payroll and eligible expenses to retain employees. And so at the time I had like 11 employees, and we didn't get that much, but we got enough. And the thing about that PPP money, you needed to kind of keep that money separate. And so I put that money in one account, and when I would run payroll, I would transfer the exact amount of payroll from the PPP into the operating account. So it made sense, like, this is y'all's money. This is what I used it for. This is who we paid. And then when you applied for loan forgiveness, it just made your loan forgiveness application so much more easier. Now, one particularly egregious allegation is that Tiawana Brown, they're saying that she used $15,000 of these funds to throw herself a lavish birthday party, complete with a rented throne. I told y'all, these orangutan queens, queen with the K, they are some of the most self-absorbed, narcissistic people walking on the face of the planet. Why do you need to spend $15,000 on a birthday party for yourself just because you're turning 50? I don't know. But these matriarchal miscreants, they like using, obviously, other people's money to enrich themselves. They want to buy luxury items, a luxury car. If you look through this woman's Instagram feed, she is an old orangutan that don't want to let it go. Like, she is trying to hold on. Listen, I get it. None of us enjoy aging. Okay, I'm middle-aged myself, and I will be 50 soon. And Lord, I am praying that you will guard my heart, and so that I can resist the need to act my age and not my shoe size. But with these matriarchal miscreants, these orangutan queens, everything is about them. Everything is about them, even if that means I will use your money, misuse money. They all, because they can't manage inner misery and they're unable to find joy and peace and reconcile so much, and reconcile like their bad decisions, they overcompensate by trying to make themselves feel better, and they'll fill that space up with chaos, drama, money, cars, clothes, things, an overemphasis on themselves. There's just so many layers to this orangutan pathology, but everything is about them. And what makes the orangutan so dangerous and toxic is because they are imbeciles who cannot manage their misery. And so everything around them is chaotic. Everything that they do revolves around them. They're incredibly selfish. Everything is for a self-serving purpose. And then they'll gaslight you and look you right in the eye and lie to you without even flinching. Did y'all hear what she said? Matter of fact, I'm going to play a clip, because in this woman's imbecilic mind, she believes that she should not step down because this crime predates her seat on the council, and therefore one of these things don't have anything to do with the other. And in fact, she plans to run for re-election again because in her mind, the people believe in her, and she's always used her criminal history to validate why she should be re-elected. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to hear directly from her some of the imbecilic behavior and some of the imbecilic statements this woman has made that lack self-awareness. Take a listen.
Brown right alongside me earlier today here at the federal courthouse. Joe, you've read page after page of this indictment with several details, but still Councilwoman Brown seems very confident today.
Very confident.
Yeah, and she says she's not going anywhere. Still, feds say they have plenty of evidence against her and her daughters, and it goes beyond that big birthday bash. We were with Councilmember Brown today. Feds say between April 2020 and September 2021, Tiawana Brown and her two daughters conducted a wire fraud scheme to defraud the Small Business Administration's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program and the Paycheck Protection Program. Feds say the trio used fake information and documentation, including fake tax forms that lied about the number of employees and gross income. All in all, feds say the trio submitted 15 applications and got at least $124,000 in funds. And here's an example from the indictment. Feds say in April 2021, Brown and her daughter applied for a PPP loan for her swimwear business, TC Collection. Feds say the two submitted a fake IRS Schedule C form that falsely claimed the company earned $96,000 in net profits in 2019, but feds say the form was fake and never submitted to the IRS. It also was the same exact form Brown's other daughter used for two of her businesses. Now, a requirement for the PPP loans was that the business had to be in place prior to February 15th, 2020. Her application claimed the business had already been in existence and profitable, but there are no registered businesses under this name with the Secretary of State. Live outside the Government Center, Joe Bruno, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Joe, thank you. And tonight, Brown remains a member of Charlotte City Council, says she's not going to resign. Coming up at 6, we'll explain whether or not that may be her choice.
Y'all, this is wild. And this is wild because the arrogance, all of these matriarchal, miscreant, orangutan queens, they all got something in common. They all got a little ghetto streak to them. Even the white ones, just ghetto, right? Ghetto, low class, low down. Just, I haven't even got into the what really makes this story so jacked up. But the part that I want to emphasize is there was a pattern of behavior. This isn't Tiawana Brown's first encounter with the law. Back in 1994, she was convicted of felony fraud charges and served 4 years in federal prison. So, like, she's already been locked up before. But since her release, though, she has been this advocate for incarceration reform and has held various board and council positions. In an effort to redeem and sanitize her image, she's gone into public service and attempting to help rehab, reform other felons in order for them to get a head start and a new lease on life. And hear me clearly, I get that. I'm a Christian. So hope and redemption and life through Christ and second chances is the gospel of grace is all about taking fallen, sinful wretches of clay and clothing them in the righteousness of Christ, and then allowing them, because they've got a new heart, to live this new life in Christ. Now, oftentimes when that happens, some of us, by God's grace, do not have to experience the repercussions and the consequences of our previous bad choices. But oftentimes there are remnants of us having to live the consequences of our bad choices, even this side of salvation, because it serves as a reminder of this is what Christ has done for you. And now you are to live this life as a redeemed, fallen son or daughter of Adam, and his grace is sufficient to get you through that. And so none of us get to choose or determine how these consequences are going to follow us later in life. However, when you're truly redeemed and born from above and are given a second chance, many of us have the story of getting mercy, which is getting what we don't deserve. And so my argument is that, yes, while redemption and second chances are important, when there is repeated patterns of unethical behavior, we should not ignore them. Should people be judged based off of the sins of their past? No, you should not enact judgment necessarily based on those things, but it requires wisdom to be able to navigate through that. And then a person needs to have demonstrated a pattern of walking upright in integrity. Leadership requires integrity. And even though, let's say, for example, if a pastor or just a regular lay person has a history of check fraud, credit card fraud, and they've robbed a bank in the past, I don't think it would be wise or prudent to make that person the treasurer of the church. We love you, Brother Smith. However, this is an area that may be a snare for you, even post-salvation. So to prevent us from putting this stumbling block in your way, we're just going to say that you should probably serve in a different area, okay? Dealing with money ain't your strong suit, okay? So, yes, leadership requires integrity. And then when those in power abuse their positions, yes, it does erode public trust. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of talk about, there are some broader implications to this story because this case isn't isolated. What I believe we're starting to see is a reflection of this troubling trend where individuals with questionable ethics, they're elevated to these positions of power, often under the banner of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as you guys know, DEI claims that their aim is to address historical injustices. My thing is, it shouldn't serve as a shield for misconduct. So consider figures like Fani Willis or Letitia James, Jasmine Crockett, and Maxine Waters. Each of these individuals have faced criticism for actions that at times seem more aligned with personal or political agendas than serving the good and the public will of the people. Maxine Waters, for example, this woman has represented parts of Los Angeles, including Compton, since Jesus was an infant. Yet that area continues to struggle with poverty and crime. It gets worse and worse and worse the longer she's in power. And so leadership, at some point, it should bring positive change and not maintain the status quo. But what is it that you see? You see things don't get better, they get worse. Fani Willis is the DA of Fulton County right here in Atlanta and ran on, I don't want Fulton County to have to worry about, their DA sleeping with everybody. And yet the scandal of all scandals was Fani Willis sleeping with the lead prosecutor in one of the largest cases of her political and judicial career. Hello. And not only that, using intimidation, lawfare, intimidating witnesses, unfair employment practices. I mean, there's just so many things associated with her, as well as Jasmine Crockett, as well as Big Tish James. All these women got something wrong with them. And it's not just like, oh, these are just little issues. These are big issues that are reflective of the fact that why do Democrats continue to elect these types of people? And so what I'm hoping that videos like this do is give us an opportunity to reflect on representation, because the people we elect, yes, they are a reflection of our communities. If we're going to continue to elect individuals who engage in unethical behavior, what does that say about our collective values? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what it says about the collective values within the Black community. It demonstrates that the collective ain't worth a darn. Do you want to know why? Y'all, take a look at this. Let me give you some insight as to why the collective ain't worth a darn.
Live at 5, Charlotte City Councilwoman Tiawana Brown is maintaining her innocence. She and her daughters were indicted last week on federal fraud charges.
She ended her week in federal court where she pleaded not guilty. Her lawyer also says she won't take a plea deal.
Now, that was last week. Flash forward to this week, and Brown started it off in a familiar space.
WBTV's Dedrick Russell joins us in studio with where she was and the message that was given to her. Dedrick?
Well, Siobhan and John, the District 3 Council member Tiawana Brown posted on her Facebook that she went to church yesterday Greater Mount Sinai Baptist Church. Well, today we reached out to her pastor, Reverend Dr. Major A. Stewart. He told me Brown was in church yesterday enjoying the service. He says the message to her today and every day is that she has the full support from the church as a whole as she deals with these charges. Pastor Stewart says he has not had a one-on-one with Brown yet to discuss her court battle, but says his door is always open.
It's my responsibility as her pastor, the under shepherd, is to walk with her, even in the valley, and to be with her and to pray with her, to support her. Not to judge, not to point fingers, simply to be with her, to support her, to pray with her and for her.
So it appears the politician is now leaning on her church family as she fights these federal charges. Now, City Council members do meet tomorrow, and Brown said Friday after she left federal courthouse that she will be present fulfilling her duties. Back to you guys.
This why the collective ain't worth a darn. This is precisely why the collective ain't worth a darn. How do we as believers, how can we be called to be discerning and hold our leaders accountable? How is it that this pastor can fix his mouth to publicly say that he supports her, even though the rest of us can see a scam artist when we recognize one, we be like, that's one on site. The community is a reflection of the moral character of those it elevates. And if a local pastor can sit and make a public statement to say, no, it's not my job to judge, we can't speak, we can't say, all I'm supposed to do is call. Is that all you're supposed to do, Pastor? All you're called to do is pray and stand beside us no matter what? Or does the Bible have clear implications and imperatives for how we are supposed to deal with sin? I understand you who are spiritual, restore such one, whoop-de-whoop. I get all that. However, what type of example are you setting up and what message are you sending to the sheep if a crooked politician who this is not her first run-in with the law, this woman is being accused of submitting over 15 fraudulent applications where she not only did she just defraud the SBA, but technically she falsified IRS records, a Schedule C, a fake Schedule C, in order to make it look like on paper that this little business, this swimsuit business, like do she really look? See, stop, focus, girl. A swimsuit business, net profit, not gross, net, meaning after all my expenses, I netted $96,000 in this business just so she can show, well, this is how much I was making so that she can get this money. Are you really trying to assert that it is not your job to judge and discern that and have a biblical discussion with Miss Brown like, sis, what is this? It would have been better for you to say, I don't have a public comment on this right now. Mrs. Brown, yes, she visited our church on Sunday. However, our church, we take a very firm stance on sin and repentance and faith in Christ. And I am not at liberty to speak to the details of this case, but this is our position. And we are willing to walk alongside our church members who are demonstrating contrition and repentance or something like that. I don't know. You could have said something. Or how about nothing? How about you should have just said absolutely nothing? How is it that Tiawana knew of all the places that she could go and get the support that she needs would be the black church? You think that's by accident? No matter what these women do, these pulpit pimps will throw their support behind them because I told y'all, many of these black churches are nothing more than the Marxist pseudo-religious arm of the Democrat Party. I know this is local municipality politics, but they've been paid for their loyalty. These black preachers, they show no loyalty to Christ, but they will tarnish even their own ecclesiastical reputations just so they can stand in the city gates with these matriarchal miscreants. Why is it that Fani Willis knew that she could pull a press conference and have a swarm of black pimp preachers behind her, standing with her, supporting her, laying hands on her, saying that she's anointed and raised up for such a time as this? Really? Really? That's the narrative? Why is it that she knew that she could visit a church and get in a pulpit and incriminate herself and lie, knowing darn well that there was an inappropriate relationship between her and Nathan Wade? She knew that she had the shield and the protection of the behemoth known as the Black church apparatus. That's that Black Church Inc. that I talk about. That's that churchianity paradigm. They know where they can go. They've been manipulating the church for years, and they manipulate these Black pastors. One, because I do believe there's always an ask. There's always some sort of financial incentive or favors or positions of power or prominence that are promised to these individuals in exchange for them to sell out. I want to leave you with the verse. Proverbs 29, verse 2 tells us that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Y'all, the city of Charlotte gets precisely what it deserves for being stupid and gullible and for not holding your own leaders accountable. Because we must ask ourselves, are we choosing leaders based on character, competence, and skill and merit? Or are we swayed by charisma and the identity politics of it all? And the one who knows how to, with the gift of gab can move and shake and convince you that I'm peeing on you, but it's really rain. This is what we are witnessing. Let me show you this other clip of the arrogance of these individuals and how even in the face of insurmountable evidence, they will always say that they are they're not worried or they didn't do it. Or in her case, she's like, well, I paid it back. Like she's real Weasley with the words. Take a listen to this.
Councilmember, Charlotte posted a video of you on the phone at the Baymont Hotel with a worker. What happened there?
Would you at all be open to taking a deal if it was offered to you?
Is there anything you want people to know here?
I love God.
Any a felony conviction could force you to lose your seat?
Do you still stand by what you said yesterday of not resigning at all?
Is the loss of your passport gonna...
I am the city council member that was elected for the people, by the people. Resignation is not in... Watch out. I'm going to warn you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Watch out.
Resignation is not.
It's not an option. This has nothing to do with my seat. Where am I going?
Excuse us.
Can we get through? Thank you.
Do y'all have on how that went today?
Hey, how are you? You know that. I love the people.
Were you surprised at all by the way the hearing went today?
What do you mean was surprised by the way? Judge was amazing.
What's the message to the community?
I love you. Keep standing with us. Thank you.
Why should the community...
No comment.
Are you at council today?
Absolutely. Are you going to come there too?
We'll be there. Vendors, street vendors.
Have a good day.
Any comments on the street vendors? The street vendor changes.
Whatever my folks want me to do with my Whatever my constituents want me to do, you know I do that, Joe. Let's not pretend that. So
do you feel supported by your constituents?
absolutely. What you think? I won every precinct.
But that has nothing to do with now.
Did you expect it to have anything to do with now? It doesn't have to make sense. One doesn't have to have anything to do with the other. But in her mind, the narcissistic privilege, entitlement, the ratcheting, imbecilic behavior, the selfishness, the lack of remorse, contrition, the pridefulness, the arrogance, and the boastfulness of it all. This woman is being charged with irrefutable evidence that she attempted to defraud the SBA and amassed over $124,000 in EIDL and PPP funds using fake Schedule Cs that were never filed with the IRS for a business that there is no paper trail or record that ever existed. And in her mind, why would this impact my seat? The people, you understand, they voted for me. The people love me. And I love God. So therefore, all of these charges and allegations mean nothing. You guys, how in the heck are we supposed to move forward and experience any sort of measurable progress within these municipalities if you keep electing these godless individuals who lack integrity because the only reason why you vote and support them is because they look like you? You don't vet them. This woman ran. Let me see if I can find where she's going to say it. This woman ran on the fact that she was a former felon. She celebrated her felony status as a way to commandeer and to manipulate the emotions of the people to get them to vote for her. And these idiots did it. I'm sorry, if you from Charlotte and you voted for her, yes, I did. I just called you an idiot. Because I'm not saying people can't have second chances. Her second chance is the fact that she's a flight attendant and she's traveling all over the world, and an airline gave her an opportunity to serve and to do something useful with her skills, talents, and abilities. But leading the city council ain't one of them, since you have a history of fraud. You have a history of fraud, lady. I don't want to trust you with the city budget. I don't know. Any sort of position where there's a fiduciary responsibility owed to others, you don't need to be nowhere near that kind of role. But let me see if we can hear what else she's going to say in her defense.
Anything you want to add? Michael, Rob, I think she covered it.
Are you pleased with today, or with the way today's hearing went?
Yes.
Yes. Will the loss of her passport affect anything business-wise, or? I know that was a big thing. That
we're still working through that. So.
No, I was gonna say in terms of the.
I'm sorry, y'all, but her attorney looks like blink twice, friend. Blink twice if you need us to come get you. This man seems so unsure of himself, or he seems deathly afraid and terrified that he is representing this client under duress. I can't prove that. That's my opinion just based off of observation. But y'all, don't he look scared? He looked like she done cornered him in the alley and told him, you gonna represent me and you gonna like it. And if you don't, I'm gonna do this to you. I don't know.
Trial, will they be 3 separate trials?
I doubt it. I anticipate that it'll be a single trial.
Rob, would y'all be open? I know y'all pleaded not guilty, all 3, but your specific case was pled not guilty and you requested a jury trial. Would you at all be open to a plea deal if it's offered by federal prosecutors?
No, it's not up for consideration.
How do you think that went today overall?
Yeah, it's just an initial hearing. Went like it's supposed to, so we're happy.
She's clearly very well respected, tied up in a case like this. Is there anything you want the public here to know?
We're just getting warmed up. We pled not guilty and we're ready to go. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Rob.
Can I ask you a quick question? Is there any reason why the public shouldn't lose their trust in her?
there any reason the public should not?
Right, after the charges have been filed by the feds, because, you know, the conviction rate by the feds is usually around 95% or so. So is there any reason why they shouldn't have lose faith or trust in her?
She's pled not guilty. She's presumed innocent, and we've got a defense that you'll hear plenty about as we go. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Coming out of the courthouse, our WCNC Charlotte's Anna King, also Kevin Wardlaw behind the camera, caught them coming out of the courthouse, asking questions. She only answered a few questions, if that, nothing specifically about what happened inside the courtroom. Her attorney is right there again, walking across the street as we are looking.
Y'all, it's a mess. This is a mess that could have been avoided if we just operated our communities leading with integrity. It's time for a cultural shift. We have got to do something different. If we don't start prioritizing integrity over image and substance over style, this is going to continue to happen. What are a few ways that we could have avoided this? I don't know. Vet candidates thoroughly. Research their backgrounds, look at their track record, their values, see where they've led in the past and what have they actually accomplished. What type of measurable improvements have they made in the lives of others that would translate well to you are going to be good in this role because you've done this. What have you achieved? I'm sorry, that's merit, right? I also think we need to hold leaders accountable. Right? Demand transparency and ethical behavior. When they do things like this, demand transparency. Don't just allow them to stand up in a church and call on the name of Jesus, plead the blood over this situation. Talking about ain't no weapon formed against me is going to prosper. No, it's prospering. The weapon is formed against you because you evil and you wicked. Okay? You don't belong to Christ. Demand transparency. I don't understand why having ethics and demonstrating ethical behavior is viewed as, well, then again, if being on time is viewed as racist and all of these other things that have been normally understood as good and right, if you're going to associate those things with racism, then the inverse or the opposite of that must be associated with something that's good and right. I don't know. But we also, in addition to demanding transparency and ethical behavior, why are we encouraging individuals to lead and have more moral fortitude and to demonstrate a genuine desire to serve? I don't want any more of these obscure, up out of the shadow politicians no one's ever heard of, but they just know how to take good, campaign photos, and they got a popping Instagram feed that we be like, yes, that would be a good person. No, what hard work have you done? I need to see what have you been doing before this. What was your position on these things? What is your worldview? If it doesn't align, then I'm sorry, I can't co-sign. Closing thoughts. I really think I would say that this should be viewed as a wake-up call, but this is happening in jurisdictions all over this country where these orangutan Black female mayors, city council members, DAs, just, attorney generals, they're all caught up in something. And it's because I believe sometimes the Lord is using this to shove everything, like just how creation is screaming that God exists. He is throwing everything up in your face to help you see that you need to choose righteousness and not ethnicity. And you just refuse to do it because it's an idol and you're bowing to this idol to your own destruction. But I believe we do. If we looked at this as the wake-up call that it should be and demand that our communities look for leaders who are committed to justice, not social justice, but are committed to righteousness and then the well-being of all of its citizens, not just the Black ones, we're going to find that we won't end up in situations like this. But I'm grateful that you guys decided to join me on this episode. I want to encourage you to continue to stand firm in the truth, advocate for leadership that reflects the highest standards of integrity, irrespective of ethnic distinction. And stay bold, stay grounded, but above all else, stay unshakable. Leave me a comment down in the box below. Do you think she did it? Do you think, I don't know. It's all alleged until proven innocent. She's been indicted. Evidence will be presented to the contrary. But this was a federal case. And normally, if she's appeared before a federal judge and they have a 95% conviction rate, she's probably going to go to jail. Her and her little ghetto daughters. I'm just saying. And it's typically the matriarchal miscreants that are Ratchetane Queen type energy. They usually will loop other people in to their deception and bring them down as well, because wherever they are, the chaos is all around them. So they actually infect chaos into the lives of others, and their own children are not exempt. So let me know what you guys think. Leave me down a comment in the box below. Until next time, you guys, grace and peace.